Strict Good by Lee Roberts, a God of War spin-off. Chapter 1. Tiwaz of Jotunheim. Even from his 10th year, Tiwaz knew he was different from his father, the kindly Hymir. Hell, he knew he was different from the other Jotnar, even his 9-headed grandmother, or even the stone-headed buffoon Hrungnir. From the Cirrus grower, he'd heard and seen stories of the Allfather, and felt an uncanny connection between him and the founder of Asgard, especially as a relatively young man. It was 2 years later, when his mother, the passionate, fierce, firm, but nurturing Hroda, told him of his lineage, that he was a demigod. Half Jotun, half Aesir, his blood father being Odin, none other than the Allfather himself. Tiwaz's good instinct had been correct. Why his mother chose to pass her son off as her husband was unknown to the boy at the time, but Tiwaz admired his stepfather and the elder man, a childhood friend of his mother's, doting on him in return, occasionally sharing mead, and telling him of great sagas, including that of the feared, blood-haired eldest son of Odin, Thor, who had killed a great many of Jotunheim's warriors. Tiwaz pondered the god of thunder with a mixture of admiration and rage. That he was his brother made him feel less alone. He always wanted a brother, but the fact that he slaughtered so many of Hymir and Hroda's friends and family instilled in him niggling inner guilt over their shared Aesir blood. Tiwaz knew his father hated Thor the most out of Asgard, as he would down at least 7 tankards of mead in the space of 20 seconds, as opposed to the steady 2, sometimes 3, 2 minutes at a time. According to Hymir, his aunt was the first giant that Thor killed. It was unknown exactly why. Anything from Odin encouraging his son to kill as a rite of passage, or having her murdered on the orders of the grief-stricken Allfather following the passing of Fjorgyn, the thunder god's mother, who died as a young woman. Perhaps she rejected the latter's advances. Whether it was all of these things or not, it seemed that Odin was determined to wipe the Jotnar from the pages of history, even if it meant assimilating them into Asgard. Hymir also told his son that Odin, and even his predecessors, Buri and Bor, heard of a prophecy called Ragnarok, a final war involving all of the 9 realms, in which the Aesir would lose. Tiwaz's stepfather theorized one drunken night that his son was more than a simple tryst with a talented giantess, that he was intentionally conceived so that one day he may be compelled to fight with his father and many half-brothers in the defense of the Allfather. Hymir never could figure out why his wife would be intimate with Odin. He once had a passing thought that she agreed to have a child with Aesir blood who would one day unite both tribes somehow. The ambiguousness of the event only served to cause more balled-up turmoil in the older Jotun. "Father," the boy asked, "is it true?" "About what? What do you refer to?" replied the foster father. "That the Allfather is my blood father." "I suppose there is no point telling tall tales anymore." "Yes. I heard grandmother mention it. In my 5th year, I heard you and mother mention me and the Allfather in the same sentence." Hymir sighed. "Your mother and me grew up in the same valley. When she came of age, she was breathtaking, like the beautiful Bestla, but wreathed in fire and wind. After her encounter with that scheming Tatzelworm, she was afraid of the man's eldest son burning hatred of us, and so returned to Jotunheim. The giant poured out another pitcher of ale, and poured half of one out for the boy whom he cherished from the day he was born. She always loved me, and I, her. At first she never mentioned who the man who bore you was. Even as you took your first step, she'd avoid the conversation until the night you overheard us. It didn't matter to me. The last I'd been in love with was with child, and needed a father, and the stable clan that comes with him." Tiwaz regarded Hymir gently before speaking. "You're the only father I've known. ever needed. But, asked Hamir, slightly alarmed, I have to do this. I have to go to Asgard. The elder giant nearly choked. Go to that wretched abode? He exterminated our ancestors, taught his halfling son to hate his mother's people. I know, Tiwaz replied, trying not to be intoxicated by the passionate nature of his stepfather. And yet, Mother was a Jotun, just like Thor's was, even if Odin purposely conceived me and his other sons for some end goal, this Ragnarok. I'm curious to get to know the man. Why? Because everyone should know the truth of where they come from, how they came to be, and well, perhaps if I manage to get into Odin's good graces, then perhaps I can help to prevent this bunkum prophecy he's so afraid of. Hamir gave a soft yet hearty chuckle. Bunkum. I didn't teach you that word. That's right, you didn't. The stepson chuckled back. Mother did. Yesterday, when we were out hunting yaks. I tried talking to her about Ragnarok and she, well, described it as that. Replied the stepfather, polishing off the last of the mead. Perhaps it is, but I do know in my gut that if this realm somehow falls, then there'll be no second chance for us. Blessed Bergelmir the Beloved and his family barely survived being flooded off the faces of Gunungagap, Niflheim, and Muspelheim. Tiwaz gave a bittersweet but determined smile. I don't believe that. About us not being able to grab a second chance. I know there's more to Jotunheim, more to the Nine Realms. Hamir looked at the boy, getting vaguely misty-eyed. What did I do? What did I ever do to earn such an insightful, intelligent son? Looks like a lot of good came and is going to come from Odin being your blood father. I meant it when I said you were the only father I needed. And you, mother, grandmother, I'm grateful that they are my family too. But I still need to do this. Father. Where's the nearest portal? Hamir hesitated for a moment before answering. Seek out Andvari. Andvari? He is a salmon. However, it has been said he is not a mere salmon at all. No one here really knows what he is, save he sometimes resembles an old, white-bearded man, stout and much, much shorter than even the women of these lands. All I do know is that he's a nomad, hopping from lake to lake. I wager that he might know how to reach Asgard. Tiwaz raised a curious, excited eyebrow. How might I know how to spot this special salmon? Look for one that wears an ocean blue ring around his tail. Then wait under a waterfall. Which waterfall? Hamir paused before replying, as if apprehensive that his stepson wouldn't believe what he was about to tell him. The Fjord of Loam. In the lowlands? Exactly. Grandmother told me that was an old legend. She did that so as not to fill your head with ridiculous fairy tales as a little boy. Silly thing to say, really, given how you came to us. Tiwaz smiled. Good night, Father. Good night, son. And not even a few mere moments later, Hamir was away snoring practically as loud as the first utterances of Ymir and Surtur. But Tiwaz had no intention of sleeping one off. Drunken drowsiness would have to wait. And so he adopted a sideways, continually shifting gait, so not to give away any moment. Time to find this weird manfish. And after a few more yards, after what felt like 2 hours, Tiwaz made his way into the forest, his already near imposing but lanky frame almost becoming one with the trees. He looked back briefly before continuing downwards in the direction of the lowlands. End of this chapter. Now, before I go, sorry for the, I guess, stuttering and stuff. It's a problem I'm trying to work on, I guess. Especially when I psych myself up for something. Check the link in the description anyway, but this is basically an audio recording of a fanfiction story I did. And I'll put that in the description, obviously. Like I said. So, yeah. I'm going to publish this tonight, but what I'm going to do is when basically the gist of it is with the T-Was thing, because the name in German and Norse mythology, the name Tyr predates Norse mythology. It's more like it's like Indo-European / Proto-German. So in that case, I'm implying that was his giant name that his mother gave him, and then it got kind of Asiified at some point. So yeah, I think when I eventually do the chapter about him being called Tyr and becoming part of the warriors of Asgard, as it were, then I'm probably after that I'm gonna publish these chapters every Tuesday, because Tyr's Day. Yeah, and I think the T-Was thing as well. It was a Roman, like a Germanic Roman kind of day as well, but given how calendars and things have changed over hundreds, even thousands of years, even hundreds of years, that probably isn't a Tuesday like we know, but the Norse version would be the more modern equivalent. So when he officially becomes Tyr, as we all know him, as opposed to the more obscure Tiwaz, his oldest name, then I'm gonna publish the rest after those, after that chapter, and including that chapter, on every Tuesday. When I do them, basically. So yeah, this was also part of the first entry of Let's Open a Book, which was a working title of Let Lee Tell You a Story. So I'll shut up now and get on with doing this thing. Chapter 2. Feast. Tiwaz kept on towards the lowlands, light from the gradually ascending sun periodically shining through his dark brown hair, making him squint as it did so, and lighting up the flecks of dark red hair at the front that were typically hidden, but were no doubt from his mother. He was anxious, as if he expected her to suddenly pop out, drag the silly boy back home, and give him a good hiding. He could practically hear the laughs of his sisters, all of them Hymir's children. He chuckled at the thought, however. She always regarded the visions of the giants as both a blessing and a curse, but all the same, she'd be bittersweetly proud of her son's drive, his curiosity. A year after he learned how to walk, his grandmother told him of a primordial legend, that the sun, called Sol, not just in Jotunheim and Midgard, but the rest of the inhabited 9 realms, was a woman. Her twin brother, Mani, the moon, of course, know I said it, of course. Ignore that bit. Tiwas often pondered if Sol was watching his progress, lightly teasing him even. After what seemed like literal hours of checking neighbouring ponds and lakes full of fish and amphibians, and it probably did take that long, Tiwas came across a strangely vacant stretch of water. Seemingly barren, but this was not so. The presence of whatever it is, or whomever they were, was strong. And unique. Then he saw what he was damn certain his stepfather told him before he sneaked away. A brief glimpse, along with a hefty splash of water. The glimpse was that of what looked like the tail of a fish, but with a supernatural but artificial glow as it landed, and went subsequently back into the deep. Neither pond or lake fish glowed as this one did, not without some sort of manipulation or another. Or another. Suddenly, a voice, more vibration than actual sound, came from the spot in the lake where the strange fish dived into. I might re-record this at some point. Anyway, back to it. Bug off! Tiwas sat there, equal parts offended and flabbergasted. Who's there? You the fish I just saw? I thought you Jotnar were supposed to be perceptive. Guess there has to be a slow kid every once in a blue marnie, eh, kid? Not that you might care, old man, but yesterday I found out I'm not as Jotun as I thought I was. There was a slight pause from the lake. You wouldn't be a son of Odin, would you? Tiwas paused about the same length of time as the voice from the lake did. Yes. How did you work that out? Because of another Jotun who was born in this here realm, and was raised by another. A man who wasn't the man who knocked up his mother. Tiwas flushed a bit, embarrassment and the possibility of an insult towards his own mother heating up his face. Where are you? Where do you think, big boy? You're too smart to be this slow. The young demigod frowned. What was he talking about? What are you referring to? The voice, getting heavy with snark, replied, I was in the middle of letting you figure that out for yourself, but I'll help you along. Did your old man ever tell you the legend of Bragi, the first bard? No, but my mother did. She told me that he had Aesir heritage. Somehow. The voice scoffed. Somehow? Really? I bet you were little when he told you that story, and decided to not tell you the full thing. The sordid details. How old are you thinking about it? 12. Just yesterday. Well now, you're officially an adult. At least in Midgard and need of... Svartalfheim. Tiwas pondered a little on the voice's last sentence. He was definitely going to say Nidavellir, the original name for Svartalfheim, before millennia of Aesir propaganda replaced the name. Was the fishman here mentioned a dwarf? That question would be put on hold for now. Tell me. All right, lad. Once upon a time, a shapeshifter ventured into the highest mountains of your realm, seeking the mead of poetry. One thing led to another with the girl who guided it, a stunning giantess by the name of... The bizarre fish paused as if trying to recall the name and vaulted into a shallow stretch of water before answering. Gunlod, that's it. Daughter of Gilling, the man whose parents were killed by a pair of immoral, greedy, cruel little bastards named Phalar and Galar. I stayed well away from this realm. I had a feeling Gilling didn't very much like people like me after what they did to his family. Tiwas raised a head slightly. His head. God, typos, I need to fix these. People like you? And you say that... Why? There was a resounding heavy sigh from the shallow part of the lake the fish was in. Then, to T-Waz's concern, it somehow leapt all the way to the bank the boy giant was sitting by. He stared down in shock, thinking the poor thing was suffocated, and reached out. "Get your hands away from me, kid!" And with that, T-Waz slowly moved his hand away and watched in stunned, unsettled amazement as the ring around the fish's tail flashed, then enveloped its body. A blue mist covered it, and T-Waz, underneath the light and mist, saw the fish's tail buck. And then two booted feet began to separate as they transitioned. And that's when he saw him, as his stepfather described, a tiny, tiny man, approximately just above a few feet tall, with a scraggled but magnificent white beard, giving the front of great wisdom. He gasped for around 20 seconds before speaking in that same cut-and-dry sardonic tone. "Because I am a dwarf. My grandfather was the first one." T-Waz piped up like a small child listening to a saga before bedtime. Born from the maggots of Ymir's dead body. When I were your age, no taller than a squirrel, I would have kicked you in the bollocks for that. But yes, with easier magic, according to the old tale. Though I suspect Odin and his shithead brothers wrote that in to have a generations-long laugh about it. The wizard-looking dwarven man looked down, and there was a beat. "Oh, where are my limited manners? The name's Andvari. What about you, boyo? And I apologize if all this, dad-shaming is getting under your skin." T-Waz. "No, it's fine. I didn't have the fortune of being raised by the old One-Eye." Andvari looked at the boy for several seconds. Then a smile spread. Then he let out a laugh comparable to a winter's gale, but with the warm heartiness a gentle spring breeze in the mid-morn. Clearly, he was already warming up to the boy's easygoing nature, but it had a pinch of morbidity to it. Andvari kept laughing, as did T-Waz. Stopping to take a breath for a minute, the dwarf spoke. I ain't giggled this much since the last time I drank my brothers under the table." "So," T-Waz interrupted, "what about this tale you were telling me, about my big brother, the bard?" "Big brother? I didn't get to that part yet. Steady on. I'm 12, not a child." All right. But after I doze off, that shifting back knackered me something funny." And with that, before T-Waz could continue to prod, the shrub-sized old man was away, snoring as loud as his 9-headed grandmother. End chapter. Ben 10 Alien Force, Conqueror of 11 Worlds. An original web story by William Lee B. Mancradors. Prologue. The motley crew of Tennyson's young plumbers were of little to no consequence, and though Max Tennyson himself had put up a decent fight, despite the decades that had passed, he too went down quickly. Vilgax's assistant, the servile Siphon from one of the worlds he conquered, prepared the terrible power-transferring device, the Pox Paniculus, and hover over Tennyson's body. His master spoke up to stop him. Don't bother treating their feeble But then he stopped himself. Leave Tennyson here to deliver my message to that brat grandson of his. What of his fallen? The imposing Atlantean mythos-esque invader thought for a moment. His turdy aide raised a good question. The Genosaurin, Pyronite, and Tetramand. I will take their powers. Ben Tennyson used the powers of those races when he was a mere child. His Osmosian friend did so as well. Both boys gave me trouble back then. The other two? The Technopath boy and the Spiked one. I have other uses for them. My lord? Take them back to my ship. Now. Proceed with the power transplant. And Siphon did as he was told. Vilgax attached the thin metal tubes to where he could find veins and watched as his assistants placed the other ends on Helen, Alan, and Manny, unconscious bodies, the aforementioned Genosaurin, Pyronite, and Tetramand, respectively. The power that crackled through Vilgax wasn't as potent as Ultima, the fallen champion of the Nth World, TK. But this extra boost would be one of extra strength and a tactical strategy. Vilgax took a deep breath as steam cleared from his body, now slightly more streamlined, yet simultaneously more muscular. Siphon gave a knowing nod, and a red tractor beam enveloped him, Cooper, the Technopath, and Pierce, the Spiked one. Before the beam transported them, his lord gave him another command. Take them to my lab. The tractor beam completed its job, and the Chimeran hammer, Vilgax's feared warship, vanished, presumably above the earth. Vilgax then knelt down to the injured Max's level. Tennyson, I know you can hear me. Max stirred in pain. There you are. Don't be disappointed too much. I won't tear you apart today. I simply want you to do one thing for me. Max said nothing and glowered up at his old archenemy. Your grandson, the one who has caused me so much trouble. Tell him the conqueror of 10 worlds is coming for him. With that, Vilgax took off flying somewhere, and Max painfully got to his feet. End chapter.
And that's the end of that chapter.
Hey, you stole my line!